Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my non-spoilery Star Wars Episode 9 Rise of Skywalker review, so no worries, no spoilers in this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. I'll be doing all my Easter egg videos and my full review, all that stuff later this week after everyone has a chance to watch the movie. So if you do have a chance to see the movie early, please don't post spoilers on this video. But we have to talk about the maximum Star Wars movie. There is more Star Wars in Rise of Skywalker than in any other Star Wars movie you've ever seen. What does that mean to have the most Star Wars in your Star Wars movie? Well, this is the last film in the Skywalker saga of films, the films that primarily follow the Skywalker family. A long time ago, George Lucas said Star Wars, when he was talking about his films, were about a family following them through the generations. The Skywalker family, people of Skywalker blood. You start with Anakin Skywalker in the prequels, he becomes Darth Vader, then you follow his children, Luke and Leia, in the classic films. Now you're following the next generation in the new films. So a lot of the movie is dedicated to telling that family story. What does family mean? What does it mean to be part of that Skywalker family? What is their legacy going to be? Those were just some of the bigger questions that they had to answer in the movie, but the movie itself is dedicated to answering all of your fan questions. So a lot of people will come out of the movie calling it the most fan service Star Wars movie of all the saga films. But I definitely think that a lot of it was made with the intention of addressing some of the biggest complaints people have had about Star Wars Force Awakens and Star Wars The Last Jedi. We got one last chance to do this. Let's try to make them as happy as possible and get them ready for whatever's coming next. One of the things I was happy to see, and the thing that you Star Wars YouTubers will enjoy, is that it does set up a lot of new things that they'll have to explore in the new Star Wars movies set after the events of Rise of Skywalker. They'll keep making movies set in the past. They're currently developing a Knights of the Old Republic movie, but most of their energy is based on developing new story with new characters set forward in the timeline. Moving this giant ship forward, praise be to Baby Yoda, who will be there, hopefully, to witness all that. If you didn't like a lot of the major canonical choices of Star Wars Last Jedi, you will probably be one of the people that likes Star Wars Rise of Skywalker a little more. It didn't completely retcon a lot of the major choices and twists of Last Jedi, but it does throw it a little bit under the bus. I'll discuss how it does that later in a more nuanced, detailed way in my full spoiler review and breakdown videos later this week. It starts a little all over the place in the first act. It's like the beginning of Star Wars Rogue One, and then there are some parts that are a little bit silly for my taste. In what you would normally treat as a big serious Star Wars movie, it is meant to be the final movie in the Skywalker saga, so you expect it to treat things pretty seriously. But J.J. Abrams, the screenwriters, and everyone tried to deliver on every big question, every fan wish you've ever had watching all total 9 of these Star Wars saga films. So it spends way more of its time trying to be a fan pleaser than something like Last Jedi, which spent most of its time trying to upend the major tropes of the franchise. That's why you've probably seen a lot of people who liked Last Jedi speaking poorly of Rise of Skywalker. As much as things jump around so much during the first act of the film, I feel like the whole second half of the film will be what most people are talking about. That's really when the film starts to take off. Longtime fans of the franchise will be happy with a lot of the stuff that they tried to include and recanonize from Star Wars Legends. So if you're not familiar with the expanded universe, there was a whole swath of published material starting in the 90s of all this expanded Star Wars canon when there weren't any new Star Wars films. When Disney bought the franchise, they sort of swept that under the rug, so Shadows of the Empire, the great Timothy Zahn, Thrawn Trilogy, all the Dark Horse comic books, everything kind of got swept under the rug, and they just decided to start with Clone Wars, the animated series, and then Star Wars Rebels as sort of their expanded canon. But slowly and slowly, they've started to bring stuff back from Legends and put it in the new TV shows and the new movies. So there are a lot of really deep cuts, a lot of really cool Force lore and Sith lore, so if you're really into that aspect of Star Wars, you will like some of the stuff they included in the movie. But unlike Force Awakens, I feel like this is them kind of addressing one of the major complaints of that film. It's not a complete remake of an earlier Star Wars movie. There are a lot of places and a lot of beats that feel familiar to Return of the Jedi, but it's not as straight up a remake as Force Awakens was. Talking about all the actors, Adam Driver as Kylo Ren has been one of the secret weapons of the modern Star Wars films. He's on fire as always during the movie. Daisy Ridley and he were great together. Finn and Poe were great together in this movie. I've been a fan of Oscar Isaacs now for a while. He's great. They also sort of corrected the mistakes of the earlier films and gave Poe way more story in this. They used him so heavily in The Force Awakens marketing, and then he had like a couple minutes during the film and that was it. They gave him a little more to do during Last Jedi. I'm way happier with what they did with his character during Rise of Skywalker. And same thing with John Boyega's character. I feel like his performance and what they did with his character in Rise of Skywalker is way better than the other two films. Because this is a non-spoilery review, I can't say too much about Carrie Fisher's scenes, but most of you probably know that because she passed away before they started shooting the film, all the footage of Carrie Fisher in the movie is actually reworked, deleted scenes from Force Awakens. But it totally worked for me. There wasn't any kind of uncanny valley issues or anything like that. You will be thinking about it in the theater though. If you remember that she's actually passed away before they shot this film, you will be thinking about that a little bit. But they did a great job of honoring her character and memorializing the classic trilogy characters. Talking about some of the new characters, Kerry Russell as Zori Bliss was fantastic. She's that helmeted character you've been seeing in all the marketing. You've probably seen some of the footage in the trailers of that tiny alien engineer. His name is Babu Frick. He's great during the movie. They actually try to give C-3PO a real arc during this film, so they make him way more critical to the actual plot during this movie. The pacing is way better in this film than it was during Last Jedi, also probably Force Awakens. Some will argue that it moves too quickly, because they cram so much plot and story into this small movie, and it's shorter than Last Jedi, but they're telling way more actual story. I expected that going into the movie, so it wasn't that big of a surprise, because there's just so many questions and character arcs that they have to wrap up. Remember how Avengers Endgame was over 3 hours long? Imagine what that movie would have felt like in terms of pacing if they had cut another 20 to 25 minutes of the movie out. So some of the other critics that I saw at the premiere the other day complained that it didn't give you enough time to linger on some of the more interesting moments, especially earlier in the film. Like a good example during Force Awakens at the beginning is when you first meet the Rey character on Jakku. You spend several minutes following her through her daily routine, just getting to know her. Now in Rise of Skywalker, there's none of that. They hit the ground running big time. They cut from scene to scene way faster, and it leaves you, the fan, to fill in some of the gaps yourself. But it doesn't yada its way through the important things nearly as badly as Game of Thrones did, so the rapid cuts didn't bother me that much. All the mains get much clearer story arcs. There's way more of the new trinity of characters together, Rey, Finn, and Poe, something people complained Last Jedi lacked. Without talking too much about it though, I do feel like there are going to be a couple really controversial twists in the movie. I'm going to have to see it a couple more times to decide how I feel about it, especially the ending. I mean, of course, the ending was always going to be controversial. This is the last film in a 9-film saga. It won't be quite as controversial as Game of Thrones ending, but still a really big twist that I did not see coming, so I'll wait to talk about that till I post my full spoiler review later this week. There are a couple big plot twists that the film turns on that it's going to take a while to unpack. The music was fantastic, as always. It's probably my favorite soundtrack of all the new Star Wars movies, and within that, probably some of my favorite tracks were when it goes to really dark Sith places. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it's the last time John Williams said he would do music for a Star Wars movie. But I think the idea is that future movies will always have remixed elements of the original John Williams music. It's so iconic, it's become endemic to Star Wars stories. Even a series like The Mandalorian, which is kind of a space western, which has a totally different composer working on it and a totally different style, takes a lot of inspiration from the classical John Williams music. The cinematography and all the technical aspects of the film were great. Star Wars movies typically always look great. Usually when people complain about Star Wars, it's about the characters or the story. I feel like everyone mostly agrees that the set design, the aliens, the special effects, the costumes are always really polished. I've only seen the movie once, so I'm not quite ready to rank it with all the other Star Wars films. Be sure to go see the movie when you have a chance. So you ask, after this movie, what's going to happen next? What do we have to look forward to the next couple of years? Well, a lot more Baby Yoda. The Mandalorian Season 2 will release next year around this same time. There's the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that they're working on next year, the Rogue One prequel series, there's rumors of another secret Star Wars Disney Plus series that they're working on. Star Wars Episode 10 isn't dated until December 2022, so it'll be about 3 years before we get another Star Wars movie. So praise be to Baby Yoda, who will carry us through the dark. But what's going to happen next is my Mandalorian Episode 7 video will post later today. That's right, they posted the episode early so that it's not conflicting with the release of Rise of Skywalker this weekend. While you wait for that, click here for my Mandalorian Episode 6 video and click here for my new Baby Yoda video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.